Ladies and gentlemen, we live in an age of constant noise, notifications, headlines, inner dialogue that rarely shuts off. Most of us are walking around with our minds racing, anxious, distracted, overstimulated. And yet, the strongest people you'll meet, the ones who stay calm under pressure, who move through life with focus and resilience, have one thing in common. They know how to silence their mind. But this isn't about meditation, slogans, or empty motivation. This is about the biology of mindset, about understanding the machinery of the brain and nervous system, and how you can train it like a muscle. Let's start with something simple but often overlooked. Your thoughts are not mystical. They are not destiny, and most importantly, they are not always true. What we experience as thought is the result of millions of neurons firing in specific patterns, driven by chemical messengers like dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine. These patterns are shaped by experience, memory, mood, and environmental input. But here's the key: just because a thought arises doesn't mean it deserves your attention. Thoughts can be distorted. They can be repetitive, negative, or rooted in outdated wiring from past experiences that no longer serve you. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision making and self-control, has the ability to observe those thoughts rather than act on them impulsively. That capacity to observe, to pause before reacting, is trainable. It's what separates a reactive mind from a strong one. When you learn to see thoughts as neurological events rather than as truths, when you begin to say, "This is just a mental signal, not a command," you take back control. You become less emotionally hijacked. That's not detachment in the emotional sense. It's precision in perception. And from that calm, precise space, you can choose which thoughts to act on and which to let pass. That's the beginning of a strong, resilient, and focused mind. Your breath is one of the only systems in the body that is both automatic and under your conscious control. And that makes it a powerful tool for shaping your mental state. Most people think of breathing as just something we do in the background, but it's a direct access point to your brain and nervous system. When you're stressed, your breathing naturally becomes shallow and fast. This signals to your brain that you're in danger, which ramps up anxiety, increases heart rate, and fuels more intrusive thoughts. It's a feedback loop. Your brain affects your breath, and your breath reinforces your brain state. But the reverse is also true. When you take control of your breathing, you take control of your physiology. There's a specific pattern called a physiological sigh that's built into your body's design for rapid stress recovery. It's 2 quick inhales through the nose, followed by a long, slow exhale through the mouth. This pattern naturally occurs when we cry, or when we finally relax after a long day. It reduces the levels of carbon dioxide in the blood, slows the heart rate, and sends a signal to your brain that you're safe. And the shift is fast within seconds. You can go from chaotic internal noise to calm awareness. This isn't abstract. This is hardwired. By practicing this kind of breath work even once or twice a day, or using it right before a heist takes moment, you're not just calming down. You're conditioning your brain to operate under control. You're building the capacity to shift from a reactive state to a regulated one, and that's a critical skill if you want a mindset that can handle pressure, chaos, and challenge without collapsing. Your visual system is one of the most powerful levers you have for controlling your mental state, and most people go through life without ever using it intentionally. What you do with your eyes sends signals directly to deep areas of the brain that regulate alertness, focus, and even emotional tone. When you're anxious or distracted, your visual field tends to become scattered. You look around constantly, take in too much at once, and unconsciously reinforce a state of internal chaos. But when you narrow your gaze, when you deliberately fix your eyes on a single point, you activate circuits in the brainstem that increase mental clarity and suppress background noise in the mind. This isn't about staring blankly. It's about engaging your vision like a mental steering wheel. Athletes do this instinctively before taking a shot. Surgeons do it when making a precise incision. In those moments, their focus isn't just psychological, it's physiological. The narrowing of the visual field sends a clear message to the brain: lock in, prioritize, ignore distraction. The mind follows the eyes. That's not a metaphor, it's neurobiology. You can train this. Take 30 seconds to visually anchor on a target, a mark on the wall, a point in the distance, and breathe calmly while holding that narrow focus. You'll notice the internal dialogue starts to settle. The brain quiets. You've shifted your internal state, not by force, but by precision. And when you repeat this daily, especially before challenging tasks or moments of overwhelm, you're building a brain that knows how to drop into deep focus at will. That's what separates a scattered mind from a disciplined one. A strong mindset doesn't come from avoiding stress. It comes from engaging with it deliberately, in controlled doses, and training your system to stay calm in its presence. The nervous system learns through exposure. Every time you experience stress, whether physical or emotional, your brain tracks how you respond. If you panic, your brain reinforces that response. But if you stay composed, if you breathe, observe, and stay steady, your brain rewires itself to see stress not as a threat, but as a challenge it can handle. That's how mental resilience is built. One of the most effective ways to train this is through deliberate physical stress, cold exposure, intense exercise, breath hold practices. These are tools, not punishments. When you immerse yourself in cold water, for example, your immediate impulse is to tense, to breathe rapidly, to escape. But if you stay in, calm your breathing, and hold steady, you are literally teaching your nervous system, "This is uncomfortable, but I'm not in danger." You're teaching your brain to widen the gap between sensation and reaction. This translates into life. When you're in a high-pressure meeting, when you're hit with unexpected bad news, when you face rejection or adversity, your nervous system pulls from past experience. If you've trained it under stress, it remembers. The same circuits that helped you stay calm in the cold will help you stay composed in chaos. Deliberate stress exposure isn't about toughness, it's about precision training. It's about preparing your system in advance, so when life turns up the pressure, you don't fold. You focus. The brain is plastic, meaning it changes based on what you do, what you think, and what you say to yourself repeatedly. Every time you engage in a particular internal dialogue, you're reinforcing neural pathways. Think of it like carving a groove into a trail. The more you walk it, the deeper and more automatic it becomes. If your self-talk is negative, critical, or fear-driven, those circuits get stronger. But the same principle applies in the other direction. You can literally rewire your brain with intentional language and thought patterns. What you say to yourself, especially under stress, shapes your physiological response. Telling yourself, "I'm overwhelmed," or "I can't do this," increases activity in the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center. But if you shift that language to "I'm ready," or "this is pressure, not danger," you activate the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for control, logic, and performance. It's not about lying to yourself. It's about directing your biology with accurate, constructive language. This is the science behind structured self-talk, and it works best when it's specific, practiced, and tied to action. You don't need to be positive all the time. That's not the point. The goal is to be deliberate. Write down the thoughts that sabotage you. Replace them with phrases that guide your system toward clarity and focus. Then rehearse those phrases out loud, in the mirror, in your journal, or during moments of discomfort. Over time, those intentional circuits get stronger. Your internal voice becomes sharper, more resilient, less reactive. That's not just mindset work. That's neural reprogramming, and it's one of the most powerful tools for building a mind that doesn't turn against you when it matters most. Sleep is not just rest, it's active neurological work. While you're asleep, your brain is performing essential maintenance, regulating hormones, consolidating memory, clearing out metabolic waste, and resetting your emotional balance. One of the biggest misconceptions in modern culture is that mindset is purely about willpower, but without quality sleep, even the most disciplined brain begins to unravel. Emotional regulation, focus, decision making, and resilience are all deeply tied to how well you sleep. If you're not sleeping enough or not sleeping deeply, you're operating with a brain that is chemically imbalanced and electrically unstable. When sleep is disrupted, cortisol levels rise, which puts the brain into a state of low-grade stress. This makes small problems feel like big ones, reduces your ability to pause before reacting, and amplifies negative thinking patterns. Even one night of poor sleep can shrink the prefrontal cortex's control over the amygdala, the part of your brain that reacts to fear and threat. That means less clarity, more emotional volatility, and a higher likelihood of impulsive, unproductive behavior. In contrast, consistent deep sleep strengthens the very circuits that regulate thought and emotion. It enhances neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to learn, adapt, and evolve. Optimizing sleep doesn't mean waiting until you feel exhausted. It means owning your evening routine like it's part of your training. Dimming lights at night, limiting screens before bed, avoiding caffeine late in the day, and waking up at the same time each morning, these behaviors signal to your brain that it's safe to downshift. When your sleep is consistent, your mind becomes stable, and from that stability, you gain the ability to handle stress, learn quickly, and stay mentally strong in the face of adversity. The foundation of a powerful mindset doesn't begin in the morning, it begins the night before. So here's the truth: a strong mindset is not a mystery. It's not reserved for the lucky, the gifted, or the genetically calm. It's built through practice, through biology, through awareness. When you understand how your thoughts work, when you learn to use your breath as a lever, when you control your visual system, condition your nervous system under stress, rewire your self-talk, and protect your sleep, you are not just surviving this world. You are actively shaping how your brain responds to it. This isn't motivational fluff. It's hardwired science. You're not at the mercy of your mind. You're the operator of it. Every day is a chance to train. Every moment of challenge is an opportunity to reinforce the circuits of clarity, resilience, and control. Silence is not the absence of thought, it's the mastery of thought. That's what real mental strength looks like, and it starts with you here, now choosing to train the system inside your skin like the most powerful instrument it is. Thank you.